get back up when we fall. We'll try again.
We'll get started.
Okay, sounds good.
Perfect. Let's get this party started. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for letting me kind of drop into your DM and say, hey, would you be excited about coming on a podcast?
Yes, not every day I do a podcast, I must admit.
Yeah, I actually, I don't have it. Unfortunately, I don't have it at my fingertips, but somebody else DM'd me and said, you need to talk to Jonathan. So that was sort of the impetus.
I know those people, the Wanda women, they are great, and I appreciate them letting you know about me.
Yeah. Well, and you've got a fascinating story, so it's even better. Where or how did you find out about the trail?
Well, it first started with the Appalachian Trail. That's the first trail that I hiked end to end in 2014. And I live in Connecticut, and all of my life I've been involved with Scouting and Boy Scouts of America. So because of Scouting, I would always hike on the Appalachian Trail, whether it was in Connecticut, New Hampshire, or Vermont. So I remember as a 14, 15-year-old kid in the scouting organization I'm part of, you go on a week-long hike in the White Mountains. So the entire year beforehand, you do a lot of practice hikes to get ready for it. And I was always the guy who was in the back, who was slow. And I remember finally catching up to my friends and being like, oh, sweet, I'm finally going to have a break. And as soon as I took off my backpack, they would just put on theirs and be like, what's taking so long, John? And from that day on, I said, you know what? Someday I'm going to do this just to show everyone that even the slow guy can hike the Appalachian Trail.
When you were doing that, was the slowness just related? I mean, like that's just your hiking speed, or is it related to something else?
The slowness was just my hiking speed.
Okay.
As a 14-year-old kid, I was not the best in shape. I'm 6'4" now. I was probably a foot smaller and 50 or so pounds heavier. So I was really not in the best shape.
Right. And little did you know you'd go on to do a Triple Crown.
Exactly. Yeah. Kind of caught the addiction.
Apparently. But you were also, like, when you decided to do the AT, you were hiking for a cause. There was a very specific reason, aside from proving your hiking chops, to do it. Yeah, and you've got your shirt there. So, hiking for a cure.
Yes. Like you noticed, I happen to be wearing one of my Hiking for a Cure shirts. I decided to hike the Appalachian Trail as a fundraiser for the L41 Foundation. It was actually my mom who said, you should look into this. And finally, a few months later, I started doing the work to try to do it as a fundraiser. But my grandmother had this disease and unfortunately passed away from it. And my father and I have it as well. So what Alpha 1 is is it's alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency, and it's a genetic disorder that causes lung and liver disease. And right now there's no cure for it, but knock on wood, hopefully something will be found in my time. And my mom and we knew I was doing this in 2014, regardless of what happened. And she was the person who said, you know what, you really need to get in touch with the people the people in charge in order to try to get this done as a fundraiser for the foundation, which I ended up doing. So this is all my mom's fault, luckily.
Blame it on your mom.
Yeah.
So all three of your hikes, the Triple Crown specifically, you were doing it for Hike for the Cure, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I actually ended up doing it 4 times for the alpha-1 Foundation.
What was the 4th one?
Well, the Appalachian Trail hike went smoothly. So then I did the Appalachian Trail in 2014. And then I came back, and my mom and dad, their plan kind of backfired because they wanted me to hike the Appalachian Trail because I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. So they said, okay, let him do this. Maybe when he gets back, he'll know what he wants to do and go to college and start a life. But when I came back, my mom asked me what I wanted to do, and I said I want to hike the Pacific Crest Trail. So she made me get my associate's degree, and in 2018, that was my 4th attempt of the Pacific Crest Trail. And I say attempt because I was at mile 813.2 in the Sierra Mountain, and I had to be helicoptered off the mountain because I had a perforated abscess.
Yeah. What was that? What happened?
Oh, but yeah, I some of it is still unknown. The doctors, they all say to me, a kid your age, at the time I was 12 or 21 years old, they said a kid your age and the physical condition that you're in should not be having this issue. But what it mainly was the massive weight loss. I lost 30 pounds in 2 months of hiking. The diet I eat, because as a thru hiker, you do not eat the best food.
Nope.
And the medication that I was on and the other medication that I was taking. So it was just a combination of things that kind of exploded into an atomic bomb that I regretted a lot.
How long? So it caused you to have to get off. Sorry. Somebody just revved their engines behind me.
Yeah, they're rooting for me.
Exactly. So you had to get pulled off the trail, but how long did it take you to recover from that?
Oh my God. First of all, when I was in the hospital, that was done for me. I was like, nope, I want to do the PCT, but I do not want to die. So I was in the hospital for 10 days in Bishop, California, and I couldn't walk because they had to do emergency surgery on me and basically right in my stomach. So I all of a sudden in a day, I went from being able to hike a lot to having to use a walker and then a wheelchair. Wow. And then after a week or two, I could use a cane. And I was using a cane for a month and a half. And probably it took 2 to 3 months before I started seeing pictures of my friends finishing the PCT, the friends who I was hiking with at the time of my incident. And then that's what kind of lit the spark back in me to finish the PCT. But then my mom told me again, she said, John, you know that if you go back out on the PCT, you won't be satisfied with just finishing it. So that's when 2019 came, and I started from mile zero and did the entire thing.
So when you got pulled off in the Sierras, at that point you were kind of like, okay, I'm done. No PCT, I'm not going to do it.
Yes.
And you weren't going to come back. You weren't.
No, I was like, you know what? I'm in love with backpacking, camping, and hiking, and I really want to do the PCT, but it is not worth me sacrificing my life.
Yeah, definitely.
But a big motivating factor in each of my hikes is the Alpha One Foundation. So I think that had a big motivating factor in why I wanted to go back out. I didn't want the Jonathan Maidment story to end and my helicopter wide off.
Yeah. Are you impacted, like when you hike, are you impacted by your Alpha 1 deficiency?
My lung doctor, I see a lot of doctors, a liver doctor and a lung doctor. And my lung doctor has told me, even though I have the disease, my lung function is as good as someone who doesn't have the disease. So right now I'm doing good. I'm healthy, and my doctor basically said, as long as you keep exercising and not smoking, don't drink beer and whatnot, and you should be good. So that's what told me, okay, maybe I should try to do the Triple Crown before too late into my life, and possibly I'm not able to do it.
Right, because your grandmother, as you said, died from, I think it was emphysema, or basically lung.
She died from Alpha 1. So
right.
she it affected her lungs, and she passed away in 2006. 2006 at 72, but she was on oxygen the last 25 years of her life. Wow. So her lung function was very low. It was lower than like 10%. And she was supposed to die around 60 years old, but she was a fighter, and she lasted an extra 12 years.
Yeah. Thinking about that, though, does that, as you said before, I mean, pushes you to get this done or do these things now while you know that you're healthy, while you know that you can do them?
Yeah, my friends and family, they knew throughout the entire process from 2014 to now that the magic number for me is 26, right? Once you turn 26, you get kicked off of your parents' insurance.
Yeah.
And my mom, she worked for the state of Connecticut in the correction facility. So she has pretty good insurance. So I knew if I want to complete the Triple Crown, the best chance for me to have completing that is to do it while I'm on my mom's crazy good insurance. And let me tell you that I was thankful that I was covered under her insurance when I was helicoptered out. That really saved my butt. If I was not on good insurance, then I would still be in debt for probably the next 100 years.
Yeah. Probably, actually. Yeah. When you hit the AT on that first day, that first night, did you feel ready for it?
Yeah, the entire year before the AT, I would always ask a bunch of my friends questions. And in my Boy Scout troop, there are scout leaders who have through hiked the Appalachian Trail and the Pacific Crest Trail. So I would always bounce off ideas, resupply points, what gear I should get, if this is a good idea, if that's a bad idea. So I was always trying to get the best information the year prior. And I probably went to REI, the camping store, probably at least 24 times. I mean, they knew my name by heart over the summer before. So when I finally hit the AT, I was nervous because it was finally happening, but I was ready. There was no doubt in my mind that I was going to hike the entire thing.
And you started, like, if my thing is correct, you started pretty early out there, right?
Yeah,
what were you thinking?
I wasn't. I started with another friend from Boy Scouts, and his birthday is on February 27th. So that plus the thing that I'm from Connecticut, so I can easily take the weather in Georgia, no problem. Those two things caused me to begin the Appalachian Trail on February 27th. Oh my God, that was I would never do that again. I was so cold. I mean, even if you were hiking, you still needed to wear a jacket and gloves and a hat and be covered head to toe. And if you stopped and took a break for more than 5 minutes, you had to put on another jacket, and you had to probably put on heavier duty mittens. It was just so cold. And like on day 5, I hiked through a snowstorm / ice blizzard storm. So I was not in the best attitude. I was thinking, what the heck did we get ourselves into? But I just dealt with the punches.
Did you ever, like, in those first weeks, did you ever go, you know what, maybe I'll get off trail and I'll come back in a month and I'll do it then?
Yeah, not just in the first 6 weeks. I would say in the first 6 months, I would constantly think that. I would always say, is this really what I want to do? Because you have good moments and bad moments, and the good moments far more than the bad times. But there are a lot of bad moments, especially if you start in late February on the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah.
I would always say, you know what, is this what I want to do? But I would always say, no, you have to do it. And especially in the White Mountains up in New Hampshire, which you're approaching the finish line then. Mm-hmm. I would always say, I quit. No, I don't quit. I quit. No, I don't quit. And I would always fight with myself. And the motivating factor would be 3 things. 1, the foundation. I felt like I couldn't give up on them, give up. And two, I had a niece that was just born, I would say 3 months before I left on the AT. And I did not want to have her think it's okay to just quit when the going gets tough. And three, I did not want to go back and have my friends be like, oh, so you couldn't hug it this time.
So yeah, I can just imagine them. They're so kind. So tell me how the trail went.
And I don't want to have anyone get the wrong impression. They are my best friends forever. They're my family. But you know how your relationship is with your best friend. They will just egg you on.
Oh yeah, they're like a sibling.
Yeah,
they love you, but that almost gives them free license to tease you.
Yeah, they've known me my whole life.
Yeah, exactly. When actually, I'm going to take that question back, because I was going to ask you, like, when did the Triple Crown seem like something you wanted to do? But from what you had said earlier, it sounds like it really didn't hit you until doing the PCT, and even doing the PCT for the second time, basically.
Yeah, well, I've always known about the PCT because of other scout leaders who have done it.
Okay.
But I wasn't really focused on the CDT. I always knew, okay, if I do the Pacific Crest Trail, I might have to do the CDT, but I never looked it up on the internet until I started hiking the PCT, like you said. And I said to myself, okay, when I complete the PCT, I have to do the CDT. I mean, in the hiking community, you can either do 1 out of 3 or 3 out of 3. There's no doing 2 out of 3. Otherwise, everyone will keep asking you, when are you going to finish the Triple Crown? When's it going to happen?
Did you want to do the third trail? Because the what you're saying basically is I have to. So I'm asking, did you want to?
I'm glad you asked me that. Yeah, I wanted to do it, but I'm glad I did it last or not forced, because I knew that the Appalachian Trail and the Pacific Crest Trail were blazed, were well marked, had minimal issues. But I've heard stories about the CDT that you needed maps and compasses, and it was horribly marked. So I wasn't really invested in doing that one quite like I was invested in doing the Appalachian Trail and the PCT. And plus, there was no other scout leader who did the CDT, so I couldn't really have anyone to bounce any ideas or questions off. So I wanted to get done with the 2 trails that I knew I could do some information about.
So because you did the CDT last year in 2020.
Yeah.
Did it live up to your expectation?
Well, it did, but for a different reason. Last year and this year, but last year too, COVID-19 was big, huge. Mm-hmm. And the hot topic for hikers on the Facebook page was, should they hike or should they postpone their hike? And a lot of people, if you did not postpone your hike, you were the devil. But there was just a lot of plans A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. Like I wanted to do it northbound. Then that kind of got postponed into southbound. And then southbound almost got postponed into a flip-flop hike starting. And about 3 weeks before I was to start on my southbound hike up in Glacier National Park in Montana, the Blackfeet reservation, the Indian tribe nation up in Montana, up in East Glacier, they shut down the park and they were not going to open it for anyone, let alone CDT hikers. So that made another problem, because the start of the CDT starting in Montana is on the reservation land. And the only way to get to the start point is by going through reservation land. And they were not allowing anyone to travel through their land, even on foot. So I technically have not hiked the section in Glacier National Park, but I had to find, I still hiked in Glacier National Park, but not on the CDT. I had to find my own way in order to get to the Canadian border. And then after 100 or so miles, I was able to meet up with the CDT and keep hiking. But with COVID, of course, you had to always kind of, that was an issue if parks would be open by the time you got there or not. There was an issue that, okay, hitching into a town every other year, you can just thumb it easily. This year, COVID's going on. Everyone's paranoid because no one really knows anything about COVID. And the question was, will people accept you and bring you to a town? And so that made it a lot harder this year. I've never worked so hard preparing for a hike and not even taken a step on the trail before in my life. But the CDT, the navigation aspect of it compared to the AT and the PCT, it's much harder. But you do not need a map and compass anymore. Granted, I did get lost about every single day for the first 2 months. So you can decide if you want to listen to me or not. But I would constantly get lost, but I would still be able to see the direction where I should go. And there were trees that were always on the ground blocking the trail. So I think the biggest issue I had was I had to hike an area that was 5 to 10 miles of nothing but trees one after the other. So it turns like a easy 5-mile day into something that can take most of the day to do, which is a pain in the butt.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine because of the type of year it was last year, that blowdowns are sort of like normal on the CDT, but I can only imagine that it was like so much worse because there wasn't all the people traveling it.
Exactly. So, since COVID was an issue last year and this year, people were not really maintaining the trail because no one really knew anything. So I was not in the best mood at times, but I can't say that language right now, otherwise it will not make you or me look good.
Yes.
the first 100 miles of the real CDT, I was thinking to myself, if this is what the next 5 months is going to be like, I am going to really hate myself because not only the blowdowns, but the creek crossings. And I'm 6'4".
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a tall person. And even I was going waist deep in creeks, one after the other. I mean, it makes no sense to dry out your boots because you will go in creek crossings at least 10, if not 20 times a day.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Were you using gut hooks out there?
I was, yes.
Okay.
Gut hooks is my best friend. I love it. But I would say out of the three trails, the AT, PCT, and CDT, that the gut hooks is great on the CDT, but there's still some instances that I would have an intuition. As a hiker, you have an intuition that you're not on the right trail, even on the CDT, and you would pull out gut hooks and it would say, no, you're on the red line, you're on the trail. But then you pull out another navigation thing or another map, and no, you're probably half a mile or a mile off trail. So for the most part, gut hooks was fine, but I was told before I hiked the CDT, I was told by another hiker named Yogi that when I get to every intersection, even if it's a trail, obvious path that I'm on, if I get to every intersection, I should stop and check gut hooks, because if you're on a path and you think you're going the right way, odds are you're not going the right way.
So did you do it?
I did, but I still I didn't do it well. Obviously, I still got lost every now and then.
How long did it take you to develop that sixth sense where you're just like, this just doesn't quite feel right?
It probably took at least a couple weeks. I mean, it was weird. I've always had a sixth sense, but the CDT was different because it wasn't as well maintained, well marked. So you needed to learn what the trail was, what it looked like, the terrain that you were hiking in, and you just needed to be well adapted with where you were. And that took a couple of weeks at least.
You're out in the middle of freaking nowhere, like nowhere.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because sometimes the CDT, the path would be kind of like you cut grass, but the grass is still way too high, but you can still kind of see that, okay, this path is different than every other location. So this is the way I go. That's the CDT.
That is the CDT. Did you, because I'm assuming that when you got lost every day, you basically, like, you had the sense, you're like, this just doesn't feel right. You look, however, to determine that. And then it's basically sort of, you're not really backtracking. You're more kind of cross-country-ing the trail.
You know, every time I would, you always cross-country, right? I mean, as a hiker, you're saying, why would I backtrack? I can just cross-country and save a bunch of time. And 10 out of 10 times, for me, that was the incorrect decision to do. On every other trail, that would be perfect, because there's an easy path to tell you that you're on the correct trail. But on the CDT, you're cross country and you might only be a half a mile away, but 30 minutes later, you're like, oh, crap, I haven't seen anything, because sometimes the path is so faint and you can't see where you're supposed to be on. So for the CDT, it is always a better decision to just backtrack. I mean, it might kill you inside to backtrack, because I hate doing more miles than I have to. If I'm doing a 20-mile day, I better be doing a 20-mile day and no more. But I screwed myself a lot by cross country and thinking I would save time.
So how often did you actually backtrack versus go, this time it's going to be different? This time it's going to work if I go cross country?
I don't think I ever backtracked. I was always optimistic. I always said, you know what, last time this did not work, but this time it's going to be better. And then it wasn't. And I would say, oh, I'm never doing this again. I learned my lesson. And then I would do it again and say, a mile this way or a quarter mile through the woods. I'm just going to cross country. And then that would be the wrong decision. I mean, even in New Mexico, a week and a half from the finish, I got lost, and I should have just backtracked a mile. But I said, no, I can go through the woods and save about 3/4 of a mile. But that 3/4 of a mile or that quarter to half mile was nothing but thick, dense brush. And it was a pain in the butt. So it's always a better decision to just backtrack.
So you're basically saying, do what I say, not what I did.
Yeah, do what I say, not what I do.
Learn from me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. When did you meet the Wonder Women?
I met them. Well, they hiked the CDT as a flip. So they went from Wyoming to northern Montana, and then back to Wyoming to New Mexico. So I met them. I was in Idaho. I was going south. They were coming north, and we crossed paths. And then I didn't meet them again until probably New Mexico. So I knew of them, and because of my Facebook page, I knew of them too, because people who were following me were following them as well. Mm-hmm. But I didn't really start hiking with them and seeing them a lot until New Mexico. And then in that state, we would just arrive at the same campsite or at the same town and have a 0 day on the same day. So then that's when we got to know each other well.
Nice.
And they're really, really cool. They're hiking the PCT this year.
I know. I'm going to follow.
Yeah, you should.
The continuing adventures of Pesky. Did you, I think on all the trails you had some sort of trail family, right?
Yes.
But it wasn't the same people each time.
Yeah, on the Appalachian Trail, I had my trail mom and dad were Penguin Men in Dallas, and the PCT, I had trail family both years, but in 2019 when I went back, I had a good amount of trail family with pineapples and happy feet and all of them. And I'm sure some of your listeners are thinking, what? Who are these people, and why would their parents name them pineapples and happy feet? But on these hikes, you have a trail name. So we were talking about the Wanda women. That's their trail name. And my trail name, no one was calling me Jonathan. Everyone was calling me Moneymaker.
Where did that come from?
That came
Because of
that came because of the fact that I do all of my hikes for a fundraiser, and I make a good amount of money. And but before I forget and get yelled at by my trail family this year, there was Honest Abe and Tink Tank, Skipper, Crash, Kill. And I needed to squeeze that in because I'm sure they will be listening in 5 weeks. But,
they would feel bad.
They would text me like, dude, no love for us. But my trail name is Moneymaker, and I live up to my trail name because between the 3 through hikes, the 4 hikes, but the 3 hikes, I have raised a little over $250,000 for the Alpha One Foundation.
Wow! Congratulations! That's
Thank you.
amazing.
Yeah,
Go, please.
No, I raised 56,000 in 2014, 82,000 in 2018, 62,000 in 2019, and 64,000 last year. So,
wow.
Yeah.
How do people donate, or like, what is that process?
Through social media. Like I said, I have a Facebook page, and that has about 2,000 people who like it and another 2,000 people who follow the page. And on that page is a link that gets you to my fundraising page. So my big motto is donate and donate often. Tell your friends to donate. And I have no issue asking people for money for something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. How close are they to a cure, do you think?
We were told about 7 or so years ago that there will be a cure in the next 10 to 15 years. So I'm very optimistic. I'm not a scientist, so the best use for me for the foundation is hiking and raising money.
Mm-hmm.
But they believe that there will be a cure definitely sometime in my lifetime, but that whether that's now or quite a bit down the line, I don't really know, but I think it will be sooner rather than later.
Right. How many people, what percentage of the population is affected by alpha-1 deficiency?
About 1 in every 2,500.
That's
for the US.
Right. There's
a
lot of people.
Yeah, there's a couple. There's believed that a couple 100,000 people have it, but I can actually probably tell you the exact number after the podcast, but it's believed that a lot more people have this disease than they'll ever know. I mean, it's of Scandinavian descent, so people who died in the early 1900s and even now from lung disease or emphysema or liver issues,
potentially.
it's not a given, that they have the disease, but the probability that they had alpha-1 deficiency is high.
Mhm. So is that one of the main, I guess, populations that is affected is Scandinavian?
Yeah, European, Irish, so
Okay.
around those countries. And me, my grandmother, I'm 25% Irish, so I got the luck of the draw, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Irish had their day with the Vikings. Dublin was a Viking center for a while and so forth. So
yeah, I
you got it
guess
twice.
I guess this is just my bad luck coming to nip me in the butt.
When you were on the PCT and you got to that point where you had to get off before and you take that next step and you're like, okay, like chase that ghost, stake that ghost. We're going forward. We're still going. Was that satisfying?
Yeah, because like I said, when I first got off and had to endure the surgery in the hospital, I had no ambition to ever go back on the PCT. But when it took a couple months, like after 2 months, I wanted to just finish it. Then after another month, I said, no, I know that I want to start over. And that felt satisfying because when I was in the hospital, from that time to late September, early October, those 3.5 months, I was really depressed. I mean, I was not feeling good at all. My dream was taken from me, and I was just in a terrible mood the entire time. And my friends and my family could see it as well. But when I made the decision to start over, it really made me re-energized because I had something to look forward to, and it wasn't done. Like I said, I had the chance to write another chapter to the book that wasn't just, and he got helicoptered off, and that was the end of that.
Did that getting helicoptered off for something that is so random? I mean, so random. Did it feel like something had been stolen from you?
Yeah, when I told you I had a perforated abscess, well, I found that out in the hospital. I had no idea what was going on when I was hiking. So when I was hiking, I was moving like a slug and I was feeling terrible. And I had no idea what was going on. And I was just in a horrible place mentally because I didn't have an answer for what I was going through. And my friends, they made the decision to hit the SOS button for me on their spot device, their GPS device, which in hindsight, I thank them immensely. It saved my life. But at the time, I was thinking, no, don't do that. When I get to the next town, I will have it checked out, but I do not want to be medically or helicoptered off the mountain. And I was just being stubborn, which still I'm stubborn today. But at the time, I was so focused on the task at hand at the PCT that my health, I won't say I wasn't thinking about it, but I was kind of putting it way far, not even in the back seat, but in the trunk. So I wasn't taking care of myself like I should have.
what were you feeling? Was it just that you were slowing down, or were you actually in pain, or?
I both. I was slowing down, but I was in pain too. My stomach was just killing me, and I was all the time up and down the mountain. And there was one instance. This was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. I went over a pass, a mountain in the Sierra, and it was a 7 mile from bottom to top, and that took me 10 hours to do.
Whew.
And because I was going at a unbelievably slow pace, and when I got to the top, I was just crawling and basically rock climbing to the top. And I got there, and I just laid on my back on the snow, and I was like, oh crap, now I have to go down, because at this point it's 4 o'clock. So you need to get off the mountain, which is 11,500 feet, and you need to hike 2 miles down to still 10,000 feet, but you're below tree line.
Yeah.
So I was in quite a bit of pain.
How did you do it? I mean, just.
Yeah, well, first of all, I had a lot of people who helped me. When I was in pain, I would always stop and lay on the side of the trail and try to catch my breath. And I had people who helped me get to like the next campsite. For some reason, there was a lot of people around me during that time, so they helped me get to the next campsite. But the day I'm talking about, the 7 mile mountain, I was basically alone on that day, and what kept me going was just stubbornness. Like I said, I didn't know what was going on with me. I thought it was constipation. I had no idea what it was. So if I knew how serious it was, maybe I would have treated it differently. But it was just complete stubbornness that made me keep going, because I wanted to just get to the next town, which in hindsight on the Sierra, there's
Not many of them.
No such thing as getting to the next road intersection to get to a town. So I'm happy I listened to my friends.
I'm assuming that you weren't feeling bad when you went into the Sierras, that it was something that happened once you got in. Basically.
Yeah, that 2018 was not my best year anyway. I started the PCT with waterproof boots, which I'm used to the AT style hiking where waterproof boots make more sense. But starting off in the desert with waterproof boots just destroyed my feet. After the first 20 miles, both my feet were covered in blisters. So that should have been my first clue that this isn't going to be the hike I want it to be. But I was taking vitamin I and Aleve and everything, because my feet just never really got completely better. And I started the Sierra, and I felt good because now I was in the snow, so my feet were feeling better because of the ice. But I even summited Mount Whitney. But once I went up and over Mount Whitney, then up and over Forester Pass. And then that's when I started feeling bad, and I was thinking, this isn't good. But yeah, learned my lesson.
learned your lesson or will be more aware?
We'll be more aware. Yeah, I don't think I have really learned my lesson, but I listen to my body a lot more.
Did you find that helps you, like that helped you on returning to the PCT? It helps you on the CDT?
It did, but you know,
Oh, no.
people say that the AT and the CDT are so much harder than the PCT.
Yeah.
And I don't know. For me, I had a difficult time health-wise on the PCT. 2018 happened. I came back in 2019. I was like, okay, I'm listening to my doctors. I'm taking the proper medication. If I am in any pain, I'm not even taking Tylenol. I'll just suck it up, buttercup. And I said, it's going to be better. And two things happened in 2019. One, when I was at Mount Baden-Powell, still in the desert in California, I was using microspikes for the snow because 2019 was a big snow year.
Yeah.
And my microspikes and pores gave out on me. So I fell about 30 or so feet. So I fell and just slid down the mountain. Jesus. And I hit a tree. So I hit a tree with my hip. I tried to get it with my backpack, but of course I missed. And let me tell you, it's a terrifying thing to realize that you can't dig into the snow. And the only way for you to stop is to hit a tree. That I thought I was going to be done again with my hike. So anyways, I lost all of my skin from my right elbow to my right forearm, completely gone, washed away. And I ended up summiting Baden-Powell and getting to a parking lot where there was a fire angel, and because of the snow, a helicopter came and picked me up and brought me to a hospital. So that was my second time I got helicoptered off a mountain. And if that wasn't bad enough, a couple weeks later, I wasn't feeling great in my stomach area. And I was thinking, oh, no, is this another perforated abscess? So I went to a hospital in the nearby town, and it turned out that I had multiple blood clots in both of my lungs. So
what?
Yeah, I've had a history of blood clots in the past. So I kind of knew what was happening, but I was thinking, no, there's no way. I'm taking medication for it. I take needles every single day. I can't have blood clots, but my doctors told me that I had blood clots, and that was another thing because at that point I was in the town of Tehachapi, California, which is very close to the Sierra.
Mm-hmm.
So my doctor in California said, well, my doctor first said to me, maybe you should stop hiking. I hear kayaking is really fun this time of year. And I said to my doctor, look, I will take as much time off as I need to, but I'm hiking. So once they understood that, they said, okay, well, the best thing you can do is once you get back on trail, you need to avoid high elevation, which the Sierra is high elevation. So in 2019, I thru hiked it, but my northbound hike turned into a flip because I had to skip the Sierra and come back to it when my lungs were a lot stronger. So that's what I did. I skipped it. I did Oregon and Washington. Then I came back and did the Sierra two or 2.5 months later. And by that point, my lungs were a lot stronger. So I was fine.
Did you feel at that point, I think I would have felt that the PCT was mad at you for something, or like was out to get you?
Yeah, I look, I'm a Boy Scout. I'm a good guy. I was thinking, what's going on? What did I do to you? I mean, even when I was hiking Mount Baden-Powell is the founder of Boy Scouts. So when I had to be helicoptered after summiting Mount Baden-Powell, I was thinking, dude, I'm an Eagle Scout. You should give me some love, right? But yeah, the PCT, I was thinking, I don't know what I did in a previous life to deserve this, but it needs to get better because I don't know how much more I can take health-wise.
Yeah.
Because my friends kept telling me, John, I don't know how many lives you have left, but you're running through all your 9 lives.
Yeah. You and the PCT are testing the theories.
Oh my God. Yeah. I don't think I really enjoyed a 0 day in 2018 and the beginning of my 2019 hike, because every 0 day I would just go to the hospital because some kind of pain was going on. And I, especially after what happened in 2018, I was going to take no chances. So anytime I had a slight injury, I would just go to the hospital.
Did it ever make you question why you were out there?
Yeah, well, after the incident of me hitting the tree, sliding down the mountain, that was a turning point in my hike, because I remember kind of catching my breath. My friend Pineapple was above the mountain, was above me, saying, "Moneymaker, are you okay?" And I was just like, "What happened?" And I was like, "Okay, you're doing good." And I just caught my breath, and I said to myself, "Look, you have a second chance and you're wasting it. You need to be a lot better at just taking care of your body, because if this is indication for what's to come, then you are not going to succeed." But I never thought that I should come back home. I just was thinking, okay, you're ruining your opportunity. You need to do things a lot better.
Be more
observant, I guess.
Yeah, like more cautious maybe, or more
Yes.
thoughtful.
Yeah. and then the blood clots happened, and I was like, I cannot catch a break. I don't know what's going on. But I had good people with me. I had friends who flipped to Oregon with me. So I was hiking with people, and they could see that I was physically worn out because the blood clots made my lungs very weak. So it was a good idea to skip to lower elevation, but I was still above 6,000 feet, which after just getting blood clots a few weeks earlier, it's not the best decision to be high up. So they could see that I was definitely not my not my old self. I was resting a lot, taking breaks. I was huffing and puffing a lot, but it took probably a good month until I started feeling like I was actually getting better.
Having those people with you, having that the tramley with you, I'm sure it made you feel safer, because obviously you had been having some issues, but they also, it sounds like, changed their hike for you and for your needs.
I mean, I wouldn't really say that, because
Okay.
they were going to flip anyway. I was just, before I had my blood clots, I was too stubborn to say, no, I'm going to skip the Sierra, because people would flip and skip the Sierra because of all the snow. I didn't want to be that person. I wanted to at least attempt it. And if I decided to bail out and to flip, that would be my decision. But I wanted to give it a shot. But after the blood clots, that was out of the question. I mean, I took 12 days off trail, and then I started hiking again, but I was still very weak. I was much better, but there was no way I would be able to go from 4,000 or 5,000 feet to 13,000 feet. That no way I would be able to do that.
Where was your end point, your northern terminus, so to speak?
Well, my end point was in Town in Lancaster, California, because I had my blood clots about 70 miles south of Tehachapi. So I skipped the Sierra, I skipped Northern California, did Oregon, I did Washington. Then I went back to Northern California. I went from Northern California down to Tehachapi. Then I went from Tehachapi to Lancaster, and that's where I ended. So it was very anticlimactic.
I was going to ask.
But I felt like I achieved it, because first of all, there's a lot of misconception that a through hike is a straight shot, either going north or going south. And I kind of thought that way too, but then I had my blood clots happen to me, and I was faced with the decision, you can try the Sierra, but odds are you're going to be helicoptered out with pneumonia. So for me, it was a no-brainer. My lungs were not in good enough shape to just go from the hospital to the Sierra. So I felt like I had to do a flip. And for me, since I had to do it, that kind of gave me the mindset, okay, I'm still A-okay. And I have a bunch of friends who flipped on the trail, and I will 100% call them through hikers. I mean, if anyone listening doesn't think that a flip is a through hike and they haven't stepped foot on either the PCT, CDT, or the AT, they would be surprised. So
you still have to do all the miles.
Yeah, it's easier to talk the talk rather than walk the walk, literally.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. You bring up an interesting point in that there are people who are purists who are like, there's one way to hike it. There's only one way to hike it. If you don't do that, then you're not a through hiker or whatever. And then there is that you're hiking the miles. Like, depending upon circumstance, you have to flip-flop, you have to shuffle around to get the miles done. And in some respects that can be harder because you're having to travel around so much to get things done.
Oh my God, yeah. 2019 was very tough because I had my issues with my lungs. And like I said, there was a huge snow year. So, and the snow wasn't just in the Sierra. It was everywhere.
Yeah.
Southern California, Northern California, Oregon, Washington. So I had to not only decide where the best place to go for me to recover was, but I needed to try to find a location that had a good mile stretch without a significant amount of snow, because I was still recovering. So snow would not have made it easier. And there's only so much I can do. I still had to hike through quite a bit of snow in Oregon anyway. But by the time I got to those locations, my lungs had been given a month of rest. So I wasn't in great shape, but I was significantly better than where I was a month prior. And purist. I was a purist on the AT. Then I hiked the PCT and I realized there is no such thing as being a purist for the PCT or for the CDT, because they have something that the AT isn't as impacted as much with, and that's snow. So if there's deep snow, there's no following the trail. There's just following footprints or following the route up a hill that you think is the best way to get to the summit. And most times you're not on the trail. So technically you're not being a purist. So
damn.
Yeah, I would love to talk to a purist who just hiked the AT and completely shut them down on that mentality for the PCT and CDT.
Yeah. You make a good point. I mean, many times people literally go straight up the hill where the trail is not going to do anything like that.
Yeah.
When you think of the PCT, what is the memory that comes to mind first?
Oh God, the PCT, I did the Appalachian Trail when I was 18. I turned 19 on the trail. So I was still the young guy by a few years. So everyone treated me like I was the baby of the group. And 2018 came and I was older than 21. Now I'm actually, I have some street credit because I hiked the AT. So people are treating me like I'm an adult, actually. And now, since I'm older than 21, people are treating me like an adult. And the friendships on the PCT, I think, were different than the AT, because there were people my age, and since they were the same age, they weren't treating me as if I was a baby of the group or if I was an old man for the group. So I will always remember the friendships. I still do not like it to this day that almost everyone from my trail family lives out west, and I'm 2,000 miles away in Connecticut. But I of course remember that, and of course what will always be etched in my brain is the helicopter rides and the hospital visits. That's something that will just never go away. But the PCT, if I didn't think I had fun in 2018 up to the incident, then I probably would not have gone again in 2019. So that there's bad memories, but the good ones outweigh the bad ones.
What about for the CDT?
All right, the CDT, something real happened to me. The group that I hiked with, I was with the same group of people for pretty much the entire time, which on the CDT, people say most of the time you will be alone. Well, I started with a guy named Skipper. I ended 5 months later with a guy named Skipper, with that guy. The first week or two, I met a guy named Honest Abe and a woman named Tink Tank. And 4 months later, I ended with those two people. I mean, on the date that I ended, that I got to the Mexico border, there was 10 of us, which is unheard of.
Yeah.
But the CDT, I will always remember those people. I mean, I was another year or two older than the PCT, so obviously there was some level of maturity, I like to think, and there was some kind of grown-up language and experiences that I was able to have that I just didn't do as a shy 18 or 19-year-old kid trying not to offend people. So I will remember that. I will always remember all the blowdowns and the river crossings that just made me think, why the heck would someone make this? Why would they do it? But you just need to laugh. I mean, I would always lie to myself on every hike. I would lie to myself and say, tomorrow's going to be better. And it might, but you don't know that.
True.
And yeah, so sometimes it is. A lot of the times it's not. So, but you just need to tell yourself something in order to keep going for tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes, it's a bad day. You say, okay, tomorrow will be better.
What about the AT?
But the AT, I grew up the most on the AT. My mom, if she was here, she would tell you the same thing. But I was 18 when I took my first steps on the AT. So I was technically an adult, but I was far from it. Some would say I'm far from an adult right now, but I was still trying to maneuver through life, and I needed the experiences that an adult should have in order to live a life. So I would constantly call my parents up on the phone to ask their opinion, to have questions, because I was 18, so I would always say, Mom, what should I do? Dad, what should I do? And then after a couple of weeks, my dad and mom just said to me, look, John, you're in Georgia, you're in North Carolina. I understand you don't know what to do, but whatever you decide, we are behind you 100%. So it took about a month for me to go from asking my parents what to do all the time to just giving my parents updates of what I did. And that was, my mom really liked seeing that transition, because it was seeing a lot of growth in front of her eyes. So but I will remember that. I will remember the people. The ending for the AT gave me a lot of confidence that I could do whatever I set my mind to in my life.
How has that translated to the other areas of your life?
You mean non-hiking?
Yeah, those crazy areas when you just aren't doing the thing you love to do.
You mean bowling life? Well, to tell you the truth, out of the last 7 years, I've probably been hiking most of it. So I can't really say that it's impacted that part a ton, because it was the AT, then I went to college, and then I did the PCT. I got helicoptered out. Next year did the PCT, finished it. The next year did the CDT, and I finished it. So but that the one thing is, I have the mentality now that I can do anything. And yeah, I will probably run into some bumps in the road, but if I set my mind to it and I want it bad enough, then I can do it. And I would say that the PCT taught me how to deal with things a lot more than the other trails. I knock on wood, but I don't think that there is something now that I will face that will make me say this is too difficult, because I was thrown through the ringer on the PCT. So I think that I can achieve basically whatever I set out to do. And I can see that, because when I first talked about doing the AT, I was nervous, and I was thinking it would be nice to do the AT. Maybe I will be able to do the AT. But after the Appalachian Trail, it went from maybe I can do it to I'm doing the PCT, I'm doing the CDT, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. The thought of it not happening just doesn't enter my mind, because I know I can do it.
You have a certainty.
Yeah.
What? I'm just looking at my notes for this.
No problem.
And and I don't remember the context of it, honestly, but there was a post that you did where you, I think, finally called yourself a real hiker.
I'm trying to think if I was joking or not. When was that? Was that this year or?
I don't remember. It would have been it was probably on the CDT.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. I was kind of joking, but yeah, there is some truth to that too, because on the AT and on the PCT, I was incredibly slow. Like I would do 300 miles a month, maybe 400, which is still a lot. But if you have a trail that's 2,000, 2,500 miles, 400 miles a month, that's like half a year. So
yeah.
On the CDT, my friends, everyone was not really worried about me, but they said, okay, John, no more lollygagging this time. You need to kind of hike with a purpose, with the finish line. Well, not with the finish line in your mind, but you need to have from the get-go a number of miles you want to do a day. and especially southbound. And I would prefer to northbound every single trail because you have an extra month at least to hike because you have April and now May. And when I southbounded, I did not start until July 2nd. And that was 2 weeks later than an ideal start date for going southbound. So I was already behind schedule from day one. So my mentality had to change from enjoying all the towns and spending a couple of days here and a couple of days there to, all right, you get to a town, next day you have to leave. you have to go in and out, and you need to do 20-mile days from the get-go. I mean, for the AT and PCT, I would do 15 to 20 most days. And on the CDT, I did 22 to 25 miles a day every single day. And I did another handful or two of 30 plus mile days. But most of the time I was between 23, 25 miles every single day because I knew I had to hike with the purpose. And since I was hiking in July, I needed to try to get to the San Juans in Colorado before the potential snow came. So I really needed to hike this one a bit differently than the other two.
It sounds like it was more of a job, so to speak.
Yeah, but there's a saying that the worst day on trail is better than the best day at work. So
yeah,
it was a job. I hiked with a pedometer, and my biggest day I did about 80,000 steps. So that oh my God, that was a tough day. But it was like a job in a lot of ways. I had to start out like on day 3, I did 21 miles. And on the PCT, I didn't do 20 miles until month 2. So after the first week, I already had a handful of 20-mile days, and I just had to keep getting at it. I knew that, okay, you can hike fast, but you also need to take care of your body. But I knew if I was getting injured, I couldn't slow down a lot because I was already behind. So a 20-mile day might turn into a 17-mile day if I'm injured, which isn't a lot, but you'd be surprised how much those 3 miles help.
Well, and it adds up. Like, you're supposed to be doing 20 to 25, you do 15 to 20, and all of a sudden you've got an extra week or 2 at the end. And
well, I was hiking Skipper. He's in his 50s, so he's double my age, and he's an accountant, a retired accountant. So I talked to him for months before the CDT, and he would always let me know the mileage we had to do. And when we northbounded, it was nice. It was like 15 miles a day, which at that time I could do. And then we turned into southbound, and he said, oh, we have to do 26, 27 miles if we want to get to here by a certain date. So I always knew the mileage that I had to do. But
how did you know him ahead of time?
I met him on the PCT.
Okay.
So we both ended up flipping. He flipped for his reason, I flipped for mine. So I kept running into him. And finally, on like the 3rd or 4th time, I said, I know you a little better now. Next year, I'm hiking the CDT. If you want to hike it with me, you're more than welcome. And he said, nah, no way I'm doing that. But the year prior, he hiked the Appalachian Trail, and that's the same thing he said about the PCT. And a couple months after I got home, he called me up and said, I think I want to hike the CDT with you. So that made my mom happy because she wanted me to hike with people for the CDT.
Yeah. Well, after your PCT adventures, if I were your parents, I don't know how excited I would be if you were going to go off on your own.
No, but they understood. They understood what I wanted to do. My mom basically knew after the AT that there wasn't going to be a conversation on whether or not I should stop hiking.
Yeah. Your life had basically been given over to the thru hiking gods.
Yeah, it's my favorite type of addiction. There's other trails I would like to do, but like I told you, I'm turning 26. But if it wasn't for that fact, I would most definitely be on another trail this year. So
you just got to find that great insurance plan.
If you find one, and if it's in California, I will move to California. But
finding good insurance is hell.
It is. I wish that when I got back, people were just like, okay, here's a job. You can hike for the rest of your life and have good insurance. I would love that. But I don't know. It's been 4 so months since the CDT, and no one's called me up to say, we want you to work for us, and we're offering health insurance.
Yeah.
So that's probably a dream.
It might be. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that we should?
Oh God. Well, yes. I talked about the Alpha One Foundation, but my fundraising page, if anyone wants to go to it, is www.facebook.com/hiking for a cure, and it's the number 4.
Okay.
So
beautiful. Where else can people find you if they want to follow your continuing adventures or have any questions for you?
Well, mainly through that Facebook site. I have an Instagram page, but even though I'm a millennial, I'm an old person. I'm an old guy with a young soul. So I don't understand technology, so I try to keep it to either one or the other. But I do have an Instagram, and it's moneymaker_AT2014.
Okay. But it sounds like people would be better off taking you on Facebook and asking or following there. Okay.
Yeah. And like I said, if anyone listening wants to give me insurance to do another hike, I would be forever indebted to them.
They know you have the staying power.
Yeah. Like I said, there's a lot of other hikes I want to do. So it's just finding the job and the time that allows me to do it.
When you think of all of the trails that you've done and all of the time you spent hiking, what is the first memory that comes to mind?
Even before the thru hikes?
If possible, yeah.
Well, I don't know if this is the first memory, but this is probably engraved in me because it was the motivating factor that made me want to hike the entire AT. But I would say all of the practice hikes I did as a Boy Scout, getting ready to do the week-long Appalachian Trail hike, because on all the practice hikes, I was a slow guy. I was the one people had to wait for, and that kind of made me say to myself, okay, I'm going to hike the AT. So those are the memories that 1 year of all the practice hikes.
That was sort of what set you up for everything that came?
Yeah, that's what set me up. And because of the AT, I obviously grew into a much faster hiker. And then the rest is history.
A bigger change, you find a better way. And if we fall, we'll get back